welcome back aboard the Holly Jolly Polite Ship, everyone. And today, surprise, I'm making another Hallmark Snowman video. But this one's going to be a little bit different. Okay, that's enough. But because I don't have every snowman up for Christmas in July, I think it'd be a perfect time to use this opportunity to look at the evolution of how they've changed over the years. Some snowmen don't really change from others. If I have only a few up, it's a good opportunity to look at a couple of them and just see how the majority of the designs changed over the years, instead of full on just like, you know. We're going to start this off with 2004 because it's the oldest one I have up currently. And what you're going to notice about 2004 is, if right when you first put batteries in it, the first thing you're going to notice is the double battery pack, which, as you can see, is obviously only in the first two snowmen. So it was only for 2003 and 2004 that they had that double battery pack. And as you can see, being the more complex one, I actually prefer using 2004 for this demo anyway, even though it wasn't the first. But also, as you can see, the motions were a little bit simple, but they still worked to do what they do. In 2003, both snowmen just do this. Jingle bells, jingle all the way. But then in 2004, I should have just let that play. But then in 2004, you see we have an extra one that we added on, which is the first time they did anything more than just the simple movements. And then in 2005, they scrapped this original snow design. Also, the buttons were both, you can see that the buttons kind of advanced a little bit too in how they look. But they got a little bit more complex with the movements here, as you can see. And the snow base for both 2003 and 2004 is this like fluffy, flexible snow stuff that doesn't really have anything in it preventing it from moving. You can also see that they have that obnoxious press here button design, which also is true for 2003. But then after 2005 release, the design that they went with for the snow was kind of sealed. They also had a button design, which I don't know, did this change? No, they didn't. But the button here, since 2005, this has been, well, from 2005 all throughout the 2010s, this is the button design that they went with for a good period. And it kind of stayed with this design idea for a long time, with the not flexible snow base with the little plastic thing in it to keep it from moving like 2004 and 2003 could, and the flatter base, and they went for more complex movements. You can see in 2005 they have the piano movements and everything, and they started doing the lights, which only started in 2005. 2005 marked the design that would be carried through the rest of the 2000s and into the 2010s. And this design right here is probably the best example of that, and you can see how ambitious they really got with what they were doing. Not only do we have lights, a movement that's never been done before for like anything else, but on top of that, they also have, and they throw in the candy cane ladder, which looks really nice. But on top of everything, they even go out of their way to make the star light up at the end. 2010 represents basically the start of the snowmen after that skip for 2009. And the only thing they released in 2009 was a Canada exclusive snowman. So nothing in the US actually was released until 2010. 2010 being my favorite. And you can see that they went with the tree again. That's another thing they introduced in the 2010s. Back in 2006, which I have, actually I can show. Back in 2006, they introduced the tree for the first time. And after introducing the lights in 2005, and then ever since then, this base has kind of been the sealed design that they will go with for the rest of the time. One of the exceptions to this will be 2012, because 2012 has to have a unique base design for what it does. But obviously we can see we're back with the candy cane, using candy canes to replace everyday objects thing. And the lights, as you can see, probably here are about as crazy as they get. They really went ambitious with this one. And then from there on, they kind of actually, you know when the start of the downfall was? 2015. I will always stand by the notion that 2015 was the downfall. But 2013 was also the introduction of Rex, which I don't have up right now, but you can see 2013. 2013 was the introduction of Rex. And now, in 2017, I'm going to give a perfect example of Rex. Little Rex right here. Originally, in 2011, you could see Rex had a little white part of his face. But he didn't. Eventually, that evolved, and he stopped having it. And every other year, he was in the Snowman. Then we have possibly one of my favorites from this decade. I have a couple favorites from this decade, but this has got to be one of my biggest favorites. 2017, which is a perfect representation of both Rex and what was going on in that decade. However, there was another problem that caused the downfall of these things that started in that decade. And that thing was, of course, this child. Look, I don't have anything against children. Unless you're this kid. Almost every single snowman since 2014 has had this child with 50 different parent combinations. Like, is it all the same family, or is it just the same child with 50 different fathers? Because you cannot tell me that is the same as that. Also, in 2020, they randomly got rid of Rex and replaced him with this dog, who has a name, and then I forgot it. But he's, I guess, supposed to pay homage to the original design for Rex, but I wasn't the biggest fan of him. I like Rex better. Anyway, another thing I got to talk about here is how back in 2007, not Rex, but back in 2007, they used to actually commit to making anything that wasn't there move. Like, you could see even the penguins back in 2006 moved, Penguin in 2007 moved, the dog in 2007 moved, and everything was good. And then they introduced the static penguin in 2010, and since then, not a single dog has moved until, we'll get to that in a second, but 2020. I actually like 2020. It's the standalone one with this kid in it that I actually like. Because it is really clever how they made the camera flash. They finally did something ambitious for once in, like, years. And then after disappearing for years, what do you know? He made a comeback in 2024 where the new design of the Snowmen was on display, but I'm going to talk about that a little bit more in the next one. But as you can see, Rex now moves. Part of the issue with the newer Snowmen is that they're on a set mechanism. So one snowman move has to move at the same time as the other character, which is usually the baby snowman. They have different movements, but they both move on the same system, which causes really, really boring, really, really bland motion cycles. And that's why nothing ambitious has been done with the motion cycles, at least, since 2012. Or I guess you could even argue since 2014. But even if it is a set motion cycle, I still love that they finally did Rex justice. But I think it's finally time to talk about the newer models. From 2023 to so far 2026, we have this. The fat snowmen. I mean, at least there's some separation from the base, which is very often a problem with the kid, because they don't actually bother to stitch him into the base. So he just, like, it's just, look, there is somewhat of a seam there, but for the most part, he's just kind of melting into the base. And they did fix that problem here, but they also made them all a lot chubbier, and they all look the same now. Also, they all have the same exact layout. The main snowman on this side, and then the secondary character on this side, and then aside from, I guess 2023 and 2024 kind of break that, but between this and 2026, it's very obvious that they have a similar design, because in 2026, it's a snowball fight, and they have the pile of snowballs in the center. I'm going to make a video on that, guys, I promise. And in 2025, as you can see, the centerpiece is the fireplace. And on one side is the dad, one side is the kid. Same thing in 2026, where the centerpiece is the snowballs, the pile of snowballs, and the dad's on that side and the kid's on that side. I feel like this is going to end up being a recurring theme for the rest of this decade. I do think this does really, really good. However, I have a huge problem with 2026 that I'm going to talk about in more depth in that video. But the issue I have is that since they've been doing this whole set motion thing, I'm very worried that 2026 is going to end up being exactly what this is. The exact same movements where the dad does the bob and sway and the kid just sways back and forth. That it has been since this child was introduced. The issue with that in 2026 is 2026, it would make a lot more sense if the kid did some sort of or the dad or one of them did some sort of motion to make it look like they were throwing the snowball. I don't know how exactly you would do that. Maybe have the kid turn or something. I don't know. But anything other than this bob and sway at this point, I would take. I'm just hoping they do something different for 2026 anyways. Thanks for watching. Be merry, not seasick. Bye.